I can.
Oh,
Okay, good.
There you go.
You got it.
All right. So let's start. And we see, and by the way, Zach, maybe you could also watch if I miss anybody else joining. Maybe you could you allow people in? Zach?
Sure, but the first couple of minutes, and then I have to be indisposed, just listening mode.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So this is the picture of Hannibal and his dates of his life. So I will start with what's the primary sources about the Punic Wars. So the main source for almost every aspect of Punic Wars is the historian Polybius. Even though he didn't live at the time of Second Punic War, he was witness of the third one. However, he was a very conscientious historian, and he often interviewed people himself. And we're talking at the time of his life and writing, there were still veterans alive that participated in the Second Punic War. So he is the most important source. However, believe it or not, much of the information, Polybius information about Second Punic War is lost. But we do have it anyway through Livy, because Livy used him very heavily. He wrote much later, but he used Polybius as a main source. So a lot of Polybius information ended up in Livius accounts, and as a result, we have it here. So Livy is also a very important source for this information, and also the Greek historian Diodorus Siculus from Sicily is another important source, and later Roman historians like Plutarch, Appian, Dio Cassius is another important historian. So the Carthage was founded. I mean, there are two dates, 825 and 814. Timaeus is a famous historian dating it 814. So it's kind of used more often, but there are two dates. I mean, it was founded. I'm not going to go into the story of Dido, how she escaped her brother Pygmalion and found it on a Birsa hill. And by the way, I have reconstruction of, let me see. Yeah, this is the reconstruction of ancient Carthage. And as you see, do you see my cursor?
We got around.
Got it.
Yeah, you see my cursor.
Yeah,
so you see
Yep.
the Birsa hill on top. So that's where, supposedly, according to legend, Dido found the city, because she said, "I just need the space from the local chief that could cover my, the ox hide," and then she cut it into small pieces and managed to circumvent, to put it around the whole hill. And then it's expanded. You see that they created this port. By the way, the remnants of this port is still there. I was actually traveling there a while back, and it's still this circular structure, and with the silent is there. So you would say that the Carthage achieved independence from Tyre, the mother city, approximately 650, when Tyre lost its independence to the Assyrian invaders. There was a siege of Tyre, and at this point, Carthage became completely independent. The form of government was monarchy to begin with, until the year 480 BCE. Well, we're only talking about BCE, so sometimes if I don't use it, I mean, and at that point, it became a republic. It was led by two shofets, which is non-royal magistrates, granted control over the city-state, and they're kind of similar to Roman consuls. So the most prominent reign prior to that, during the monarchical period, what they call the Magonid family, and Mago the First or Mago the Great, who ruled in approximately 550 BC to 530. And at this point, Carthage achieved the political dominance, in the area in the Mediterranean. And that was the rise of the Carthage as the dominant power. So Carthage, so its political system changed in 480 with the death of the last king. His name was Hamidkar the First. There were very few names in Carthage, apparently. We know Hamidkar was also Hannibal's father. So he was the last king because he had a foray into the First Sicilian War in 480, and they suffered humiliating loss, and that's how he lost the power and became a republic. So by at least 308 BC, Carthage was an oligarchic republic, and the most detailed information about Carthaginian government after this point comes from the Greek philosopher Aristotle in his book about politics, called, and there he discussed that Carthage is the only non-Greek example of oligarchic republic. According to Aristotle, the highest constitutional authority in Carthage was a judicial tribunal known as 104. Okay. So population of Carthage in 221, right before the Second Punic War, and we're talking about the whole empire. So this is, by the way, it's actually said the goddess Tanit. It was found in the 4th century BC. It was found later, of course, but it's dated 4th century BCE in Ibiza, which is part of Balearic Islands. So this is, okay, I will talk about this later, but just wanted to show you the map.
Greg,
yeah.
just a comment. I don't know if you're going to, could you go back to the picture, that reconstruction of Carthage?
Yeah.
I was just particularly interested in that. I looked at this a while ago. On the harbor, you've got the inner harbor, which was used for the war triremes, and the outer harbor were the trading ships.
Right.
And so the inner harbor was quite defensible. In fact, you can see, if you look closely there at the bottom left, you can see 3 triremes heading out from the inner harbor. So the triremes were galleys, of course. They were the warship galleys. And the cargo ships in the outer harbor were, according to this, these were open-decked sailing ships. And I guess the ones outside the walls seem to be mostly, maybe are mostly cargo ships. But I was just interested in that the harbor, and in the harbor, the outer ring was just the docking ports for the warships, and that inner island, as it were, that inner circle is the workshops for building and repairing the triremes. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, I just wanted to show you the empire. We're talking about that at this point still Carthage is the empire. We see this is 2000, right before the beginning. This is the Carthage here, and they have all this coastal area and also part of Spain. That's at 2018 because they expanded, and of course, and this is the Romans' holdings at the time. So the population of this whole empire this time is approximately between 3.7 to 4.3 million people. That's a huge empire. It's actually larger than Roman citizen, not even citizen, but even including allies. And I'll show you the statistics. But prior to that, we know that around this time, it was considered one of the biggest cities in the world, the Carthage itself. And this Strabo estimates that the population of the city about 700,000, and the contemporary estimates is about 500,000 around the year 300 BCE. And that would make the Carthage the largest city in the world at the time, including the whole world, even China. So that's how big. I actually go through a little bit more. Just wanted to show you the population statistics of Rome, because it's a very interesting. I'll go through this again later, but where is it? Okay, here is very interesting. You see, this is the years BCE: 280, 225, 203, 163, 124, 69. So if we look at 225, this would correspond approximately to this estimate of between 3,700 to 43. And you see that this is the population of Rome itself. Population of Rome itself is 125,000 with the suburbs, and the periphery is 600. So altogether, with the it's only 865,000 people in Rome, not in the city, but it's a suburbs and periphery, but also there are allies. So you would say that they had an access in terms of to draw army almost to 3 million, and it looks like population of the Carthaginian Empire was a little bit larger than that, maybe closer to 4 million. But interesting, you see how the Rome population grew. Eventually, you see it didn't grow that much between 225 to 203 because of the war. But then the next, it started to grow a lot. And 69 BCE, it was just the Rome 500,000. And we know that around 1 year AD, it was close to 1 million. Again, you add the suburbs, you add periphery, you see a lot of, like you could see that the Italian allies became citizens, so they're all here. All right, I thought it was like interesting statistics. Let me go back. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. I'm going to talk about this in a moment. But now we want to see. We talked about the Carthage. So now let's go back to Hannibal. So Hannibal was born in 247 and died in about 183 or maybe 181. So his father, Hamidkar Barca, you remember him, was a Carthaginian general during the First Punic War. He was operating in Sicily, and after the war, he was and he actually acquired quite a fame there, and he got his name Barca, which means lightning or thunderbolt. That's kind of like epithet, a surname, because of his swiftness and ferocity of his attacks. He was like kind of waging a guerrilla war on Romans at the time, because he didn't have that much of the force to face them directly. So he, as you know, after the war, there was uprising of mercenaries. They were unpaid, and he won that war, became even more famous. And in 237, just a few years later, he led the campaign going into Spain. So that's a famous Spanish campaign. He actually took his son with him. His son is 10 years old, and it is a kind of a story, as you see there. His son took an oath that he will never be a friend of Rome, and that's you could actually see some of the things I was talking about. So now that's the oath on the fire. So now at this point in 237, because after the First Punic War, Carthage could not have a fleet. That was one of the parts of the agreement. So the army could not be transported into Spain. So they actually had to go from Carthage all the way through the North Africa, all the way to the Pillars of Hercules, what we call Gibraltar right now, and cross there on the local boats, and then wage a campaign here. So Hamidkar, he was expanding the territories of Carthage in Spain until he died in one of the battles in 228. And according to Diodorus Siculus, he drowned during the retreat across the Jukar River, according to just take this out. So and the command at this point, in 228, at this point, his son-in-law, Hasdrubal the Fair, took the command. He was married to Hannibal's sister. He was older and more experienced commander. And Hannibal at this time is like only 18 years old, and he served under Hasdrubal the Fair as an officer. The reason he has this name, the Fair, we actually want to distinguish him from another Hasdrubal who was Hannibal's brother. Hannibal had famously two brothers, Mago and Hasdrubal, who later on also were generals. So Hasdrubal Fair succeeding in the command, and he found a city called Carthago Nova, New Carthage, which is now called Cartagena in Spain. So he founded this city. But 7 years later, he was assassinated. He continued expanding in Spain. He was assassinated by a slave of a Celtic king, Tagus, who was avenging the death of his master. So in 221, Hasdrubal is assassinated, and Hannibal, who is now 26 years old, proclaimed commander-in-chief by the army, and later confirmed by his, by the Carthaginian government. So this is the beginning. So after he assumed the command, Hannibal spent 2 years consolidating his holdings in Spain, completing the conquest. However, Rome was fearing the growing strength and popularity of Hannibal in Iberia, and it made an alliance with a city called Saguntum. This is this city right here. So the Rome sent the Horizon there. They made alliances, and this actually Rome made the city its protectorate, and Hannibal not only perceived this as a breach of treaty signed with Hasdrubal, but he was already planning an attack on Rome, because that he was determined to really pay them back. And so he just went and laid the siege to the city, because he considered this an offense. That's how this war really started. So Rome reacted to this violation of treaty and demanded justice from Carthage. But in view of Hannibal's great popularity, a Carthaginian government did not repudiate Hannibal's actions, and the war he sought was declared at the end of the year of 2018. So Hannibal departed New Carthage in late spring of 2018 BCE, and he fought his way, through to Pyrenees. Pyrenees are the mountains that is right here. Let me see. I have other maps here. This is another map of similar. This is the 2018. The other map was like 221. This is 2018. As you could see, they expanded. Hannibal expanded the territories of Spain. This is like kind of more Balearic Islands here. And now he crossed the Ebro, and he goes, and now he's crossing the Pyrenees here. Let me see the next one. Yeah, that's his route. That's his route eventually. So now, so he has fought his way to the foothills of Pyrenees, and then he left detachment of 20,000 troops to garrison the newly conquered region. We're talking about, this is the newly conquered region, this part. You see there is a red in here. And from there on, he's crossing the Pyrenees. And in order to cross Pyrenees, he outmaneuvered the natives who tried to prevent his crossings. And then he also evaded the Roman force marching from Mediterranean course by turning inland up the valley of the Rhone, because Romans already knew what's going on after he took Saguntum in 2019. So they're sending the force by the fleet to the city, Emporia, and trying to, intervene, but he goes around, he goes inland when he is crossing, and outmaneuvered Romans and went on the other side of Pyrenees, and now he's going towards Alps. So he crossed Alps. He crossed Alps. Exact route through the Alps is still kind of debated. We don't know, approximately here. So he crossed Alps, surmounting difficulties of climate and terrain, and guerrilla tactics of native tribes, and exact routes, disputed. However, it is estimated Hannibal arrived on the other side of Alps with at least 28,000 infantry, 6,000 cavalry, and 30 elephants. And he goes in the territory of Toruni, which is now Piedmont, and this is, or later on, this province was called Cisalpine, Gaul, because this is the Gaulish. This is Gauls, the territory of Gauls. Wait a second, I'm going this way. Yeah, this is a more complete kind of story, and that's where the first major battle happened, and Ticino. Let me see, what else do I have here? Yeah, this is the depiction of the crossing of Alps. Okay, so about the elephants, this is very interesting here. So, well, obviously, Romans, basically, they were expecting him, but they didn't anticipate such an early arrival, and that was one of the problems, because their forces were still in the winter quarters, and this obviously crossing is credited as one of the greatest achievements in military logistics. to go through the hostile territory in the late autumn with no supply line. So now about the elephants. So unlike Pyrrhus, who used the elephants landed by Ptolemies, these are the Indian elephants. The Carthaginians used forest elephants that are now extinct, that lived in the North Africa. In their territories, it was much more forested even than now, and there were still elephants. They were smaller than even Indian elephants. The real African elephants beyond the Sahara region is even larger usually than Indian, but these elephants even smaller, and they were hard to train, and also they were known that they could not swim in the deep rivers, and here is another depiction that's what they had to do to move them across the rivers. I thought it was pretty nicely done. So
I thought elephants could swim. I can see the mahouts being drowned.
yes, elephants can swim, but they are saying that this specific breed of elephants that is now extinct, they could not swim very well. They could swim a little bit, but they would have problems crossing the river, so they had to do it. But Indian and other African elephants, they could, but these elephants didn't. It's a extinct breed of elephants that lived in that northern part, northern territory of beyond Sahara. Now, of course, there are no elephants living there.
Yeah, Greg, it makes a lot of sense because there's not a lot of deep rivers in northern Africa, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but it was much greener at the time. When we're talking 2025, the climate was a little bit different, and they were known that there were this breed of elephants that the Carthaginians used.
Yeah, Greg, I guess there was a question about these war elephants. I think the Indian elephants or the Asian elephants are famously much more domesticable or trainable than the African elephant. But this extinct, I guess they only recently discovered that there was this extinct breed of African elephants that were much more domesticable than the southern African elephants. So that they weren't imported Asian elephants, as I think some people have thought historically. They were this extinct North African breed. Thanks.
Right. Okay. So the first engagement with Roman forces led by Consul Publius Cornelius Scipio. This is the Scipio Africanus' father. He was a consul, and as there are two consuls, they're the two main commanders of armies. So Publius Cornelius Scipio, in November of 2018, it was the Battle of Ticinus, or Ticinus. I don't know if I, sorry, how to pronounce it exactly, but this is the first battle that happened. You see Mediolanum, this is the Milan currently. This is the old name for that. So this is where the first battle happened. So in this battle, it started to move so fast, and it was mostly cavalry engagement. There was right away started with the Carthaginians started with javelin throwing and attacked Romans very fast. So Romans couldn't even properly deploy their troops, and they didn't even have a chance of firing single valley. So a major cause of Roman defeat, because they didn't have time to throw javelins, Scipio was wounded as a result of that, and barely escaped with his life, and he was in fact rescued on the field by his 18-year-old son, the future General Scipio Africanus. So you could, as you could see, and we will address this later, Scipio Africanus started this war. He fought basically in almost all major battles and survived them all. And the first battle was when he was 18 years old, and he ended up acting heroically, saving his wounded father. And they barely escaped. And as a result of this defeat, all the Gauls, except tribe Genomani, were induced to join Carthaginian cause. I mean, they revolted. They started to revolt. You see this, you see the name is Rebellium Gallorum. At Bellum Hannibalicus, meaning this the uprising of Gauls at the war of Hannibal. So that's how Hannibal were able to replenish his troops, his army, and soon the entire north of Italy was in insurgency with both Gallic and Ligurian troops bolstering Hannibal's army back to 40,000, or maybe even by some estimate 90,000 troops. So close order Libyan infantry and citizen militia would fight in a tightly packed formation known as phalanx. I'm talking about Carthaginians here. They fought, the troops that they brought. Libyan infantry, and actually, on occasions, this infantry would capture Roman armor and used it. So they apparently didn't have a lot of troops didn't have specific armor, Carthaginian armor, so they used whatever they could capture during the war. And slingers were frequently recruited from Balearic Islands. Balearic slingers were very famous in Roman Empire army later on. But at this point, they're recruited by Carthaginians. It's a part of Carthaginian territory. And of course, we said that there were elephants. We talked about that. So, like, after this battle, the army is now much bigger, and they move down south. I'm sorry, I'll just go to this, to Trebia. So this is Trebia right here. This is another major battle. So Battle of Trebia. This is a very important battle, happened in December 2018, and this is the disposition of the battle. Okay, and let's talk about a little bit. Romans are always red and Carthaginian blue, and in most of these schematics. So at this time, both sides had approximately 40,000 each, but Carthaginians cavalry outnumbered Roman 11,000 to 4,000. And also Hannibal at this point deployed 37 elephants. I can only imagine that maybe a few more elephants arrived later, because originally had only 30, but maybe there was later arrivals. So in this battle, Hannibal got the better of Romans by exercising careful and innovative planning, for which he was famous. The impetuous and short-sighted opposing general, the second consul, Tiberius Sempronius Longus, allowed himself to be provoked into a frontal assault under physically difficult circumstances and failed to see that he was being led into a trap. Romans actually arrived, pretty recently. They were moving extensively prior to that. They were kind of tired also. So Hannibal's younger brother Mago, with hidden cavalry force, emerged from the ambush. You see, that's what he did. You see, this is the hidden cavalry, and they're waiting here. There's because he has advantage of cavalry, so he put something hidden right here. So when Romans attacked, and they were engaged, at this point the Mago arrived with his cavalry, hidden cavalry, and attacked the flank and the back and the rear. So that's obviously a major success. So so once he attacked the rear, the Roman infantry, their morale was very low because of cold, hunger, and fatigue. They traveled long distances, and they broke formation and ran to the river. This is they crossed the river, and now they ran to the river back. So according to Paul Erdkamp, this is a contemporary historian, the Romans lost about 20,000 killed during the battle, half of their force, and that excludes those captured. When the news arrived at Rome that both consuls have been defeated at Ticinus and Trebia, the population panicked, expecting to see Hannibal at the gates. Some 2.5 and more legions escaped from the battlefield. 3 more legions under wounded Scipio never participated, wounded Scipio at the Battle of Ticino. And also they had 2 more legions in Spain. So in all, Senate had about 7.5 legions, healthy and good winter quarters troops. So like not all is lost. So Roman Senate resolved to raise new army against Hannibal under recently elected new consuls in 2017, Gnaeus Servilius Geminus and Gaius Flaminius Nepos. Okay, so now they have the new army, and in 2017 they're arriving to Etruria. This is the Etruria, as we know, Tuscany right now. You see the famous city of Florence, Pisa, Arezzo, the Perugia. So we know all of the cities now. Okay, and this is the Lake Trasimena, which becomes very very relevant here, because that's where the battle or ambush happens later on. So now Hannibal tried without success to draw the main Roman army under Flaminius into a pitched battle because he tried to devastate the area that he was sent to. They're sent to protect. So the Roman army positioned themselves around here, and the Hannibal's army is around here, and they started to devastate this area in Etruria. Okay, so so now what happens here is that the Roman troops here, they kind of blocking advance of Hannibal from the north to going straight into Rome right here. So the Hannibal makes this maneuver to go around the lake and get and supposedly go right onto Rome. So here is there were the Roman troops defending his path, and Hannibal goes here, and then he turns and outmaneuvers them and trying to go around the lake. And the Romans at this point realize that if they let him do that, he will go, the road to Rome will be completely unprotected. So they took they followed him in pursuit. But what happened is the Hannibal stopped right here, put his camp, and then most of his troops went back and set the trap right here.
Greg,
Yeah.
Greg, when you say here, I don't know, are you trying to show that with your cursor? I'm not seeing it.
Yes. You don't see my cursor?
Oh, there. Oh, okay.
Right here. Yeah, I
Yeah,
am using cursor. Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was hard to see. Okay.
I apologize. I don't know if I could get a better cursor somehow, but
Now I
so
see.
so you see he
yeah.
positioned it right here,
Yes.
Hannibal, the camp position right
Yes.
here, and the Roman camp, and this is the continuation. You see that northern part of the Lake Trasimene, so that's where the camp. But then he sent the rest of the army back, or he actually left some of them right here, and when the Romans pursued, because they were in a rush, they were attacked from this time. Can you even imagine? We're talking about major armies being trapped in such a horrible way. So now it happened in June 24th, 2017. Hannibal at this point had 55,000 army. Flaminians has 30,000, 55,000 versus 30,000. So Hannibal had ventured. Roman troop march eastward, right here, going east, along the road, running near the northern edge of lake, eager for battle. Flaminius pushed his men hard and hurried up the column in the rear because he was eager to catch Hannibal. And Hannibal sent a small skirmish force to draw the vanguard away from the front of the line. So he had a skirmish and started to fighting with the vanguard, and then started to retreat. So the vanguard moved really fast, leaving the rest of the army behind. Romans actually at this point it was very foggy, narrow defile ground, entered plains skirting the lake, and at this point trumpets were blown signaling general attack. So Carthaginian cavalry and infantry swept down from the concealed position in surrounding hills, blocked the road, engaged the unsuspecting Romans from three sides, surprising and outmaneuvered Romans did not have time to draw up a battle array. And they were forced to fight a desperate hand-to-hand battle. And the Romans were quickly split into three parts. The westernmost part was attacked by Carthaginian cavalry and forced into the lake, leaving the other two groups with no way to retreat. The center, including Flaminius, stood its ground, but was cut down by Hannibal's goals and 3 hours of heavy combat. In less than 4 hours, most of the Roman troops were killed. The Romans' advance guard saw little combat. And once the disaster to their rear became obvious, they fought their way through the skirmishes and out of the forest. So the vanguard, part of the vanguard survived. Of the initial Roman force of about 30,000, about 15,000 were either killed or drowned while trying to escape, including the consul Flaminius himself. He was slain by the Gaul named Ducarius. I guess you become famous for slaying the consul. So another 10,000 are reported to have made their way back to Rome by various means, and the rest were captured. So, but out of 30,000, only 10,000 survived, made it to the Rome. This was the most costly ambush that Romans ever sustained until the Battle of Carthage against the Parthians. That's where the Marcus Licinius Crassus there. We're talking about not the battle, but the ambush, the most costly ambush. So Hannibal now disposed the only field force that could check his advance upon Rome. Let me see what's next. Yeah, it's not very clear map, but it's easy to explain. By the way, just wanted to show this is the Rome, by the way, and this is the Lake of Trasimene. This is the Apulia, and the Khan is right here, and this is the Capua and the coast of Campania. We're going to talk about this because you could see the roots of Hannibal here. So the Hannibal disposed the force. Now the Romans at this point appointed Fabius Maximus as their dictator, because they're now in desperate positions. And departing from Roman military tradition, Fabius adopted the strategy named after him, Fabian tactics, avoiding open battle while placing several Roman armies in Hannibal's vicinity in order to watch and limit his movements. Hannibal ravaged Apulia. So, well, the reason, by the way, why Hannibal didn't go directly to Rome at this point, and even later after the Battle of Cannes, we will discuss this, is mostly because he had no siege engines, and there was no way for him to take the fortified city without that. It's a major city, a lot of people living there, defending it, just scaling wouldn't work. So he went into Apulia right here. This is a rich coastal region. He was devastating it, so that was fine. Fabius kind of followed him. He tried to, he occasionally engaged him here and there on small little skirmishes, but no battle. By the way, Hannibal's father Hamilkar used the same tactics in Sicily in the first Punic War, but the Romans are the winners, so this tactic called Fabian. If the Carthaginians would be winners, it would be called Hamilkarian, I guess. But anyway, so then Fabius decided to march through Samnium to Campania. The mountains are going here on this side of the peninsula, but then they go a little bit to the center here. So he had to cross the ridge in order to go to Campania, because it was also very rich territory. He wanted to ravage Campania. It's one of the richest and most fertile provinces of Italy. So he was hoping that the devastation would draw Fabius into battle, but Fabius closely followed Hannibal's path of destruction, yet still refused to let him be drawn out of the defensive. This strategy was very unpopular with many Romans, who believed that it was a form of cowardice. Hannibal decided that it would be unwise to winter in already devastated lowlands of Campania, and wanted to go back to Apulia. So he was here in Campania, specifically this Capua, this city of Capua, and he decided to go back into Campania, which was less devastated at this point, and winter there. However, Fabius wanted to prevent him from crossing the ridges, the mountain ridge, and he basically guarded all the passes, to prevent Hannibal's army. So, what happened is Hannibal kind of knew that all the passes were blocked, and to avoid this, he deceived the Romans into thinking that the Carthaginian army was going to escape through the woods. There was apparently some woods that they could have escaped, with a much harder climbing, but they kind of showed that, yeah, we're going to go. And as the Romans moved off towards the woods, Hannibal army occupied the pass and then made their way through the pass unopposed and Fabius was within striking distance, but in this case, his caution worked against him. I mean, to attack the pass is really a hard task, because once you occupy the pass, you have this position that's very hard to take. I mean, unless you're ready to sustain major losses, and that's where Fabius, decided, being cautious, decided not to attack. But because he was tricked by Hannibal, and because he occupied that pass before, but he moved off, and Hannibal, while pretending to crossing another place, then once he left, he occupied the pass and now moved all his army through. That was very embarrassing. And Hannibal found comfortable quarters now in Napoleon Plains. What Hannibal achieved in extricating his army was the Adrian Goldworthy puts it as a classic of ancient generalship, finding its way into nearly every historical narrative of the war and being used by later military manuals. This was a severe blow to Fabius' prestige, and soon after this, his period of dictatorial power ended. In the campaign of 2017, Hannibal actually failed to obtain following among the italics. I mean, he was hoping that like in Gaul, there was an uprising. Now he moved. This is Italian tribes. This is not Latins. So he was hoping that they would also, join his army and fight against Rome. But that did not happen. He did not get support of those people. They stayed loyal to Rome. So in the spring of 2016, he took the initiative.
Greg,
Yeah.
Greg,
Yes.
what people are you talking about that didn't join up with him?
They call generic term italics. This is other Italian tribes. You see, the way Rome developed, right? This is the Latin territory. Then there were Volscian territory, and there were other tribes further down that at this point were part of Rome. So there were various tribes, and none of them they were considered Roman allies, and none of them joined Carthaginian army in mass. They voluntarily.
Thank you.
So now, in 2016, in the spring of 2016, Hannibal took initiative and seized a large supply depot at Cannes in Apulian Plains. So he moved here in the spring of 2016 and launched because this is a major port. And what happened, because this is the port where a lot of supplies, I'm talking about food supplies, were delivered for the Rome from various sources. So in a way, by doing that, he placed himself between Romans and the crucial source supply. A lot of it was coming from the Sicily. So he kind of like cut off a big portion of the food supply, and the Roman Senate authorized raising double-sized armies by the newly elected consul Varro and Aemilius Paulus. So, and now we're moving to the most famous Battle of Cannes. Okay. So Battle of Cannes, now the huge Roman army moves in that territory. This is like very important. So it happened in August 2nd of 2016. Hannibal had 50,000, including 10,000 cavalry. Romans have 86,000, much larger army, but smaller cavalry, only 6,400 versus 10,000 of, and cavalry apparently played a major role in this. So Consul Aemilius Paulus This is, by the way, a father of no, not father, grandfather of future General Scipio Aemilianus, who defeated Carthage, finally destroyed Carthage. But this is his grandfather. So, so the consul resolved to confront Hannibal and march southward to Apulia. After 2 days' march, they found him on the left bank of Phidias River. You see the river, Phidias River, and encamped 6 miles away. Hannibal capitalized on Varro, the second consul, on Varro's eagerness, and drew him into a trap by using an envelopment tactic that eliminated Roman numeric advantage by shrinking the surface area where combat could occur. Hannibal drew up his least reliable infantry in the center of a semicircle with the wings composed of Gallic and Numidian horse. So this is so you see, originally the engagement was that you see again, Romans are red and Carthaginian blue. So they, the weakest infantry they put right at the center, and they created this semicircle going outwards. But then when the Romans attacked, this troop started to retreat. It was actually organized retreat. And eventually they ended up, they retreated far enough while the flanks started to advance. And what happened here is that that the Romans, they were so tightly packed, you know, that a lot of Roman troops were completely incapable of participating in a battle. I mean, they couldn't even wield the weapon because they denied them the space. Okay. So, while the front ranks were gradually advancing, and the bulk of just kind of like repeat what I'm saying, losing the cohesion, the Roman troops, crowding themselves, and at this point, collapsing line of Hispanic and Gallic troops, they drew Romans even deeper into this semicircle, and Hannibal at this point ordered the African infantry to turn upwards, you know, and at the same time, the you could see that the Spanish and Gaulish cavalry overwhelmed, and Numidian cavalry overwhelmed the Roman cavalry, and because they were disadvantaged, 10,000 against 6,400, and the small, it was all right here. And once they got rid of it, they attacked, the cavalry attacked Roman army from the rear that is already tightly packed. So that's basically how this battle ended. That was pretty novel technique, and so since and he had an advantage, and so due to these brilliant tactics, Hannibal, with much inferior numbers, managed to destroy all but a small remnant of the Roman force. Depending on the source, it is estimated that between 50 and 70,000 people were killed, Romans I'm talking about, or captured, killed or captured. 86,000 participated, and 50 to 70,000 killed or captured out of this. This is like a huge demographic blow. For a brief period, the Romans were in complete disarray. Their best armies in the peninsula were destroyed. The few remaining severely demoralized, and the only remaining consul Varro, because Aemilius Paulus was killed during this battle. One of the consuls was killed. So Varro was completely discredited. One consul killed, the other discredited. And as the story goes, Rome declared a national day of mourning, as there were not a single person who was not either related or acquainted with the person who had died in that battle. Hannibal has defeated the equivalent of 8 consular armies, 16 legions, plus an equal number of allies, within just 3 campaigns seasons of about 20 months. Rome had lost 1/5, 150,000 of the entire population of male citizens over 17 years of age. According to Princeton-Stanford combined study, for much of the Republican period, the internal consistency of the surviving census tallies leave little room for doubt, so that they're between 260 and 400,000 beginning in the 3rd century. This is the population of the males in Roman territories. And at the end of the 2nd century, okay. So they say, yeah, I guess I actually confused myself here, so I don't quite get it. But anyway, clearly we know that they lost in these 3 campaigns about 150,000 people. If we go back to the statistics, let me see. Okay, this is the statistics, population statistics of Rome. Again, so we're talking about 2025, 2003. This is the population through this whole period. So there is a loss. So you could see this 100,000 right here, loss of the Rome with periphery, and then also allies. So altogether, almost 150,000 people lost. It's a huge, huge blow. Now, the morale effect of this victory was such that most southern Italy joined Hannibal's cause at this point. In the same year, Greek cities in Sicily were induced to revolt against Roman political control, while the Macedonian king Philip V pledged his support to Hannibal, initiating the First Macedonian War against Rome. So we're going to talk separately about that. Okay, now we're moving closer to this. After Cannes, the Romans were very hesitant to confront Hannibal in pitched battle, preferring instead to weaken him by attrition, relying on the advantages of interior lines, supply, and manpower. As a result, Hannibal fought no more major battles in Italy for the rest of the war. It is believed that his refusal to bring the war to Rome itself was due to lack of commitment from Carthage of men, money, and material, principally the siege engines. So that's one of the reasons why he never actually moved against Rome. He knew it wouldn't be possible to take the city. Hannibal sent, and he didn't have enough troops to organize the siege of such a major city as well. So Hannibal sent delegations led by Carthalo to negotiate a peace treaty with Senate on moderate terms. Despite the multiple catastrophes Rome had suffered at that time, the Senate refused to parley. Instead, they redoubled their efforts, declaring full mobilization of male Roman population and raised new legions, enlisting landless peasants and even slaves. In 2003, after nearly 15 years of fighting in Italy, and with the military fortune of Carthage rapidly declining, Hannibal was recalled to Carthage to direct the defense of his native country against Roman invasion under Scipio Africanus. In the years following Khan, striking reforms were introduced to address these deficiencies. First, the Roman articulated the phalanx, then divided it into columns, and finally split it up into a great number of small tactical bodies. They were capable now of closing together in a compact, impenetrable union, now of changing the pattern with consumable flexibility, of separating one from the other and turning in this on that direction. So I'm talking about now, this is really a creation of legion started right here, because prior to that, the Romans still fought in some form of phalanx formation. So now this is changing. Now the manipulus are being generated and more flexible legion tactics. So now we go to Scipio Africanus, who was born in 2036. He is 18 years old. In his first battle at Ticino, he participated in the Battle of Trebia. He participated in the Battle of Caen in 2000, and he survived. He was one of the survivors. So you think about in 2016, the Battle of Caen, he's only 20 years old. He is a son of a general and a former consul. Obviously, he is a officer. However, he is still very young, but the war is lasting long. After between 2016 and 2003, we're talking about 13 years of Hannibal kind of going around southern Italy, but really quite ineffectual. So Scipio's would-be father-in-law, Emilius Paulus, consul, killed in a Battle of Caen. And Scipio, by the way, also made an oath to his father about fighting Rome, fighting Carthage to the end. So despite these defeats, Scipio remained focused on securing Roman victory. So, and he was never to see Rome force defeated again. Once he was given command at the age of 25, he never lost a battle. In 2011, both Scipio's father, Paulus Scipio, and his uncle, Gnaeus Cornelius Scipio, were killed in a battle against Hannibal's brother Hasdrubal Barca, that is in Spain, because they were leading war in Spain against the Hannibal's brothers Hasdrubal and Mago. So at the election in 2011, again, so he's 25 years old at this point. So at this in 2011, so Romans resolved to send troops to Hispania. Scipio was the only man brave enough to ask for this position. No other candidates wanted the responsibility, considering it a death sentence. So the Romans were so humiliated by Carthaginians, and even Hannibal's brothers were considered such a major opponents that nobody wanted to take a command. And here is this young man of 25 years old, had the courage and said, I'm going to do it. So they were happy to have it. So Scipio landed in the month of Ebro. Okay, so this is the Ebro. It goes through the new Carthage. You remember, that's the one that city founded by Hasdrubal the Fair, the brother-in-law of Hannibal. early on. So he landed in the mouth, and he was able to surprise Carthaginians there and capture New Carthage, the headquarters of Carthaginian power in Hispania. So the first amazing success. He obtained rich cache of war stores and supplies, and an excellent harbor and a base of operation. So at this point, he also showed himself as a great, politician, administrator, and his humanitarian conduct towards prisoners and hostages in Hispania helped in portraying the Romans as liberators as opposed to conquerors. In 2008, Scipio defeated Hannibal's brother Hasdrubal Barca in the Battle of Baecula, which is right here. This is the Battle of Baecula, 2008, and then eventually continued. And in 2006, there was a major decisive battle of Ilipa. So after winning over a number of Hispanian chiefs, namely Indibilis and Mandonius, Scipio achieved a decisive victory in 2006 over the full Carthaginian levy at Ilipa. The Carthaginians launched their great effort to recover their Iberian holdings. Mago, that's the youngest brother of Hannibal, was joined at Ilipa by Hasdrubal Gisco. That's not his brother Hasdrubal, that's another Hasdrubal, who and they created the force estimated at 54,000 to 70,000, considerably larger than Scipio army of 43,000 men. So we're talking about between 54 to 70 against 43,000. Okay, so this is the Battle of Ilipa. So, so a lot of Roman army at this point were also made up by Iberian allies that he managed to make. And Scipio performed covert pre-battle maneuvers, weakening his center. So when Carthaginians realized that it was too late to counter Roman formation, as troops were about to join the battle, the light Roman troops were called back through the spaces between the Manipulus to position themselves behind the legion on the wings. Then the main advance began, with the wings advancing at a faster pace than the Iberians in the center. So the center was of the Roman troops were Iberians. Scipio formed a concave or reverse con battle line. So you remember in the Cannes battle line, original battle line was that the center were way advanced of the flanks, and then they went back and formed the. Look, he kind of did the reverse, and that's the beginning of the position. So. So now the Carthaginian, okay, I just have to find where in my notes where I left off. So Scipio formed this reverse con battle line, and then he expanded his wings by ordering the light troops to the flanks of the legionaries. So they were kind of bigger, and the cavalry to the left flank of the light troops, thus enveloping the whole Carthaginian line on both sides. So even though he had less troops, he thinned them out, especially the center, so that they became wider and they enveloped the flanks, so they could attack the flanks. The Carthaginian center was further demoralized and confused by trampling by their own maddened elephants, which were driven towards the center by the Roman cavalry attacking the flanks. The Romans at this point, they developed the techniques, by the way, of putting the nails on the ground before elephants, and they would step on it and turn back. So combined with hunger and fatigue, the Carthaginians started to withdraw at first in good order, but as Scipio now pressed his advantage by ordering his Iberian center into battle, the Carthaginian crumbled, and the massacre that might have rivaled the one at Cannes was only averted by a sudden downpour, which brought a halt to all actions on the field and enabled the remaining Carthaginians to seek refuge in their camp. But as more and more Iberian mercenaries deserted the Carthaginians at night, drew forward, Hasdrubal tried to slip away with his remaining men in darkness. Scipio immediately ordered pursuit, led by cavalry, and whole Roman army was hot on Hasdrubal's tail. When Romans finally caught up with Carthaginian host, and butchery began. Hasdrubal was left with only 6,000 men, who then fled into mountains without any water supply. This remnant of the Carthaginian army surrendered a short time later, but not before Hasdrubal and Mago had made good their escape. Subjugation of Carthaginian Iberia was completed, and Scipio returned to Rome. He was elected consul in 2005 with unanimous nomination. So he completed his campaign in Spain. And now this is the time when Spain became Roman province first time. Okay, now this is the African campaign. So Scipio sailed in 2004 to Africa and landed near Utica. This is the Utica right here. You know, this is the Carthage, okay, and this is the Tunis. You know, Tunis right now is the capital of Tunisia. You know, the big city. Carthage is a smaller city with remnants of the Roman city. Because after it was destroyed 100 years later, Caesar rebuilt the city. So Scipio sailed to Africa in 2004. Carthage, meanwhile, had secured the friendship of Numidian king Syphax, whose advance compelled Scipio to abandon the siege of Utica and dig in on the shore between there and Carthage. In 2003, he destroyed the combined armies of Carthaginians and Numidians by approaching by stealth and setting fire to their camp, where the combined army became panicked and fled when they were mostly killed by Scipio army. Though not a battle, both Polybius and Livy estimate that the death toll in this single attack exceeded 40,000 Carthaginians and Numidian dead, and more captured. Scipio quickly dispatched his two lieutenants, Dielius and Massinissa, to pursue Syphax. Massinissa himself is the Numidian and relative of King Syphax. They ultimately dethroned Syphax and ensure Prince Massinissa coronation as a king of Numidians. So at this point, Numidian cavalry, very famous cavalry, now fighting for Romans instead of Carthaginians. So Massinissa is the major ally, and Carthage, and especially Hannibal himself, had long relied upon this superb natural horseman and would now fight for Rome. Now, deserted by its allies and surrounded by a veteran and undefeated Roman army, Carthage began opening diplomatic channels for negotiations. At the same time, Hannibal Barca and his army were recalled to Carthage. So this is the 2003 when Hannibal is recalled from the south of Italy. And despite moderate terms offered to Carthage by Scipio, Carthage suddenly suspended negotiations and again prepared for war. And the main reason is because Carthage had a major confidence in Hannibal, and Hannibal and Scipio have not fought direct battle at this point. So Hannibal sailed from South Italy. He landed down there, and then in 2002 he marched to meet the. If you follow my cursor, so he marched to meet the Scipio's army at Zama. So now Scipio, as you could see, proceeded further down, meet with Massinissa now, who is the king of Numidia, with his Numidian cavalry, and now moves to Zama. That's where the battle happened, meeting Hannibal's force. So this is the first direct battle between Hannibal and Scipio. So, Battle of Zama. We're approaching the end of this war. So, Battle of Zama happened on October 19th, 2002. Carthage had 40,000 troops and 80 elephants. Rome, 35,000. These times, Romans have 6,000 also cavalry versus 4,000 for Carthage. So the Romans have advantage in cavalry, some disadvantage in infantry, and of course, they don't have elephants. At the onset of the battle, Hannibal unleashes these elephants. Scipio ordered cavalry to blow loud horns to frighten the beasts, which partly succeeded, and several rampaging elephants turned towards the Carthaginian left wing and disordered it completely. Seizing this opportunity, Massinissa led his Numidian cavalry and charged at the Carthaginian left wing. So you see, this is the Carthaginian left wing is right here, and Massinissa's cavalry, which is larger in size, charging, and what Romans also did, the rest of the elephants that did not charge back, they were carefully lured through the planned gaps in lanes and taken to the rear of the Roman army where they were dealt with. So Scipio planned to neutralize the threat of elephants had worked. So they made the gaps, and elephants just running through the gaps because this is the natural for them. They see the gaps, they go for it. You cannot go on troops when there are gaps. And while they're going through the gaps, they're being attacked on the sides, and whichever animals survived, they already killed at the back of the army by some of the troops. So he was prepared for this to deal with animals. So Scipio now marched with his center towards Carthaginian center, which was under direct command of Hannibal. Right here. So Hannibal moved towards with only 2 lines, and a 3rd line of veterans was kept in reserve. A furious struggle ensued, and the Roman hastati is the first line of the weakest line, actually were pushed back with heavy losses. Scipio reinforced the hastati with a 2nd line of Principes, which had better armor and more seasoned troops. With his reinforcements, the Roman front renewed the attack and defeated Hannibal's second line. Carthaginian cavalry carried out Hannibal's instructions well, and there was no sign of Roman cavalry on the battlefields. So he instructed Hannibal to draw Roman cavalry out so that they would not interfere with the infantry battle. So Scipio played for time as he redeployed his troops in a single line with the hastati in the middle and the principes in the inner wings and the triarii, these are the veterans, on the outer wings. Hannibal waited for Scipio to attack, but Scipio played for time because he knew that he has advantage in cavalry and he was waiting for the cavalry to return. So resulting clash was fierce and bloody, with neither side achieving local superiority. However, Scipio was able to rally his men. The battle finally turned in the Roman favor as the Roman cavalry returned to the battlefield and attacked Carthaginian line from behind. That's what happened. The Carthaginian infantry was encircled and annihilated. Hannibal managed to escape the slaughter. It was a major defeat that put an end to all resistance on the part of Carthage. The total, as many as 20,000 men of Hannibal's army were killed at Zama, while 20,000 were taken prisoners. Romans, on the other hand, suffered so few as 2,500 dead. Many Romans aristocrats, especially Cato, expected Scipio to raze that city to the ground after his victory. The following treaty bankrupted Carthage and destroyed any chance of it being a military power in the future. Although its economic recovery was quick, only provisions was that the Carthaginians were not allowed to make a war without Roman consent. This allowed Romans to establish a casus belli for the Third Punic War, when the Carthaginian defended themselves from Numidian encroachment, within which the Romans would not stop. So the Romans later on did not stop, and the Carthaginian had to defend themselves, but they started the war against Numidians without Roman permission. That was the cause for the Third Punic War, because Romans at this point really wanted to destroy the city completely. So Scipio was welcomed back to Rome in triumph with the agnomen Africanus. He refused the many further honors which the people would have thrust upon him, such as consul for life and dictator. He refused all that. In the year 199, Scipio was elected censor, and for some years afterwards, he lived quietly and took no part in the politics. Later, he had legal issues because of his political rivals and retired to his estate. He died in 183 BCE. And coincidentally, his great rival Hannibal died in Bithynia on the same year, most likely, or shortly thereafter. Also, as an exile, pursued and harassed to the end by Romans such as Titus Quinticus Flamininus. Livy writes that House of Hannibal was surrounded by Roman soldiers and he took poison. Appian wrote that he was poisoned by the king of Bithynia. So we don't know. There are two versions of his death. But that's it. That's the end of my presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we can address any questions or comments, any kind of discussion.
Okay, very good, Greg. Thank you very much.
Okay, I hope you got the feel for the Second Punic War. I just went through all the major battles, and just to conclude, just wanted to say that, I mean, in a way, you could see these two major characters, Hannibals, how they grow up and become kind of drawn to the cause. Of course, Hannibal was older, like 11 years older, started earlier, but Scipio also fought in all the major battles and eventually turned out to be such a talented general.
I have a couple of little questions.
Yep.
This very intricate Battle of Zama,
Mhm.
it was just in the course of a day. It was one day.
Yes.
There's a lot of maneuvering for one day.
Sure, but most of the battles are usually fought in the course of one day. I mean, that's that usually, yeah, a lot of maneuvering. They, but the main thing is that once they got rid of the elephants, you know, and here it actually shows that how important cavalry is, because you see the Romans had disadvantage in the infantry. They had advantage in cavalry. I mean, altogether, it would seem that the Hannibal's army was stronger, considering also 80 elephants, you know. But you see, they prepared. They already learned how to fight, you know, elephants by that time, you know. And you see, they used the loud sound, the tubes, to scare them. And actually, once they got into the channels between the like army organized, their flank were open for attacks, like throwing javelins at them. Then they were running, you know, through. So they already, all of them were wounded by the time those who made it to the back. So they either died or like were dispatched. And then the advantage in cavalry really showed, because they attacked from the rear, and that's it. That's usually.
Yeah. My other little question is, I'm not familiar with the geographic place names for where Hannibal fled to and where he died. Where was this?
Yeah, Bithynia is the in Asia Minor. You know, so at this point, there are, you know, we're talking about the 3rd century. So this probably, like in 2200, yeah, I think that's probably already the Parthians, I think, already taken. Yeah, so this is the time when the Parthians taken it's a separate kingdom, but they're probably subject to Parthia. They're in Asia Minor.
Okay, and also I just wanted to point out, PBS carried a what's it called, Secrets of the Dead broadcast, where they drew various scientific experts to explore the Alps for for Hannibal's probable route.
Right.
And they make a very good case for him actually to have taken the route that the Romans least expected, because it was physically the most difficult. And part of the surprise that they faced when he came out at the other end was that he came from a path that they had not expected him to come out at.
Sure. But also the main surprise was the timing. You know, that was because they couldn't imagine he'll manage it so fast. They were not ready. The army was not ready. They scrambled. You know, it's. Yeah, Misha.
Yeah, a wonderful job. Thanks. Question: why did Carthage for several years not send this
support to Hannibal?
No, not support, but this
supplies, siege engines.
Siege engines, right? Seemed obvious, but
yeah. Why? Well, I think that had a lot to do with the political struggle in Carthage at the time, because Hannibal at this point very popular, and his whole family has a lot of popularity. But as usually happens this is oligarchic republic. He has opponents, and they are not interested in him gaining popularity because they're afraid he will become a dictator or something like that. So they sabotaged obviously they didn't expect this kind of the development.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions, comments, anything? I'm probably gonna stop recording at this point.